today is Michelle Beauchamp. Michelle Beauchamp, CEO of the Champ Group, is a certified coach, speaker, and trainer on the John Maxwell team. Michelle's 25 years in corporate America as a sales leader in telecommunications, combined with her 12 plus years as an entrepreneur, has equipped her to help others explore their strengths, improve areas of weakness, and through a journey of inner discovery, create and lead inclusive cultures that enrich relationships and increase productivity. Member of e-speakers, she is also licensed in the Everybody at the Table DEI content and for the program that helps clients identify their purpose and practice to build customer, team, and community excellence. A member of Connected Women of Influence, Michelle volunteers as an successful, unstoppable, empowered talk coach to guide others to craft and deliver memorized talks. I warmly welcome Michelle Beauchamp. Welcome to BrandsTalk.
Thank you so much, Bridget. You make me sound so exciting and special. And thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. And you're not kidding, it is around the world because you're in another country and I'm in another country. So when you say global and around the world, you're not kidding. So thank you for inviting me.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm in Austria. You are in the United States, in Los Angeles. So we are 9 hours apart from each other, and we still can make it happen.
I
Yeah.
know the
So
color. Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you on my show today because we're talking about a very, very important topic. It's about organizations, about organizational cultures. It's about inclusion, diversity, equity. So before we dive deep into that topic, I want to know from you, Michelle, why did you leave corporate America? What did not match for you anymore?
Thank you for that question. You know what? So, what I want to start off by saying is corporate America was really a good experience. I had a lot of years. I worked in corporate America for many years, then I left it, and then I was an entrepreneur for many years, and then I went back to corporate America for 10 more years, and then I left. So, I left, officially left 5 years ago in this coming September. And so that's going to be worthy of celebration. The reason why I left, because you know what? I had a business before, and what I learned is that I really loved having that business. And the thing I think I love the most is I could come up with an idea and
Mm.
I could try it and see if it worked. And if it worked, then I could run with it and move it forward. And if it didn't, then I could say, okay, that didn't work, evaluate why not, make the decision of what I would change or if it was worth it. In corporate America, I didn't have that flexibility. In fact, I remember that when I went back into corporate America in my first year, I'd say I'd been there about 6 or 7 months. I had an idea. I was used to having ideas. I remember sharing that with my boss, and she said something to the effect of, "We don't really need you to come up with ideas like that. We just need you to implement what we roll out." And you know what? That was a reminder to me that this was not what I wanted to do. This was not who I represented, and it wasn't gonna allow me to do what I really wanted to do. And you know what? I worked there for 9 more years after that.
Oh,
But
you
always in my I did, yeah, 9 years because you know what? It served the purpose, income, for a while, pension, all that, but I realized that my passion was really developing myself and developing others, and the job that I had did not really allow me to do that, and the culture was not inclusive, and so I made the decision, I don't want my end game to be working at this company or another company. I really wanna be able to try things out, run my business, make a difference in the lives of others the way that I want to. So, that's why I made the decision, but it wasn't a bad experience, but I will tell you that this is so much more rewarding, and I have not missed it, not one day. Did I miss the income and the guaranteed paycheck every other week? Yeah, I did at first.
yeah,
But people outweighed that, right? This
yeah.
outweighed that.
And this is really interesting, all what you said, because you said it's the job at the company served the purpose. It was the income, the money, all of that. But then there was the time You said, okay, there needs to be a higher purpose, something else. I want to leave a legacy. I want to run with my idea, no matter whether I'm successful or it was just a learning. Yeah, but this is also something, a learning that you take away from that. So you can be very proud that you made that shift. Yeah, you jumped
Ah,
ship into something that you own, and you can you can come up with ideas and then implement and not just follow any orders. I think that was magic moment that when she said you just need to execute. So that
oh, yeah,
really sticks.
yeah. Really, that was a long time ago, and I still remember that.
Yes, we never forget things like that. On your entrepreneurial journey, what was difficult for you at the beginning, let's say within the 2, 3, 4 years of inception of having founded your company? And what was difficult,
Yeah,
what was easy when you look at it in retrospect?
okay. And based on the fact that you're all about branding too, right?
Yeah.
I was always a sales leader in my corporate life. What I know a lot is about sales, and I know a lot about leadership because I was a leader. So when I started, I was going to have a focus of sales training and leadership training. What was difficult was really just trying to figure out really what my purpose was, who my audience was, who's my audience, who's my target audience, who's out there that I can serve. I knew about the importance of finding out the need, digging deeper, finding out the real pain, and figuring out how to help people overcome their pain. And so I knew that a big challenge though was to be able to zoom in on who was my audience and how could I best serve them and what did I really have a passion for. And so I did sales training, I did leadership training, and what I will share with you is that was all going fine. It was challenging though. I started my business in 2018. And so 2019, I started becoming more clear about what I wanted to do. I had a few clients and I was really just, and I was spending a lot of time learning and growing. I was really learning and digging deep into the John Maxwell content and so much other content. People who I follow now, Brene Brown, Simon Sinek. So I was really digging deep into what I wanted to do. And I will tell you that I felt really good in January of 2020. When we got in April was going to be my big month. I had some things lined up, and
Yeah.
then we know what happened in March of 2020. So then that became another very challenging, but a challenging year. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm not going back to corporate America. I have a passion for this. I have the ability to do this. I am equipped to be able to help people learn and grow and succeed. And so I didn't give up. And then in May of 2020, we know what happened. That was the death of George Floyd. And a lot of companies started to recognize the importance of diversity, the importance of inclusion. And as I looked at that, the videos and went through the pain that everybody else went through that time, I remember saying to myself, Michelle, you already do leadership development. This is about leadership development with a lens of DEI. So that's when I began to understand that more, to dig deeper, went through the program, got a license for that program that you mentioned, everybody at the table. And I added DEI to the leadership training. And what I realized is how passionate I am about that. I've been a woman, I've been Black, right? So I have a lot of personal experiences, and I thought this is a great opportunity for me to be able to help other people navigate through this complicated and complex subject of DEI, and leadership is complex as well. So so then my branding, right? Then I decided, okay, this is what I'm gonna be really focused on now. And so now leadership and DEI are the main areas that I train and coach in now and consult in. So it's been a journey and it's continued. All I know about being an entrepreneur is and this is what I love about it too, you're always learning. So
Yeah.
it's a journey.
You're always learning, and it's interesting since now you have talked about your journey so far since 2018 that you added on this diversity and inclusion. So it is everything made sense and everything felt into its place. And the beauty
Yes.
is once we take action and we walk it, then all the
Mm.
things make sense and come together and are unfolding. And that was with you the same thing. It's going to continue. There is one more question I would love to ask you because you have a wonderful tagline going with your brand name, Champ Group. Unleash your inner champ. How did you come about this particular tag?
Because as I reflected about what I really wanted my purpose to be and champ. So, obviously what I did was I took part of my name and turned it into my company name because deep within me, I believe that all are winners. I believe that we all have a champ within us. And I also experience that many times there's so many things that hold us back, starting with the way we think, starting with just not having the confidence that we should to be able to go ahead and unleash our inner champ. So I came up with that. Like, this is what I really want to do in life is unleash our inner champ. It's already there. And then when we give ourselves permission and we have the tools that we need to navigate through that, then we can enjoy and experience the success that we're destined to experience. So
Yeah.
that's how I came up with that. Yeah, yeah,
It's similar to mine, and I think I mentioned that the other day. It's radiate your beauty and brilliance, and it's everything that what
yeah,
already have within us. And
exactly.
that to the outside world, projected to the outside world. And this now becomes really interesting because it's a good segue into our topic of today. How does the discovery of ourselves, of our inner truth, relate to more inclusive cultures? And in turn, how does that increase productivity? I think this is a really interesting idea how this comes about.
Yeah. So for me, we have to evolve as people, and that requires reflection. And one thing that I know, and listen, I have to practice reflection
Yeah.
myself because we're so busy that we don't take time to sleep. We don't take the ni enough time to think about the success that we have, and then why did we experience that success? So we can repeat it, right? Let's figure out what we did well so we can make sure we repeat that. So that's one thing that we need to do. So it starts with reflection and then an introspection, right? Really taking the time to figure out our success. And then again, what didn't go well? Why didn't that go well? What could I have done differently? And so the more as leaders we reflect on and become more aware of ourselves and how we impact others. And then that affects it's true that our thoughts affect our words and our words become our actions become our character. All that is true. So when we are willing to dig deep within ourselves and say, you know what, I could have done better at that. So what I encourage leaders to do, because it's evolved and people are evolving. So the practices and the styles that worked with leaders years ago, those have changed.
Mm.
Those styles being dictating to others and being authoritarians, those styles don't work anymore. And so what I encourage is that leaders are willing to look inside themselves and say, that wasn't a good thing to say to that employee. How can I fix that? And moving forward, what can I say that's different? So it starts with the inner discovery. What are we doing well? And I do always want us to take a look at what we're doing well because we have a lot of strengths. One thing that I know we tend to do, and honestly, women tend to do it more than men, is we beat ourselves up when we look at what didn't go well. We look at our weaknesses. And again, inner champ, we already have a lot of greatness within us. And so when we reflect on that, we can bring it out. So inner discovery, how can we change? How can we become better? Will generate inclusivity. We have to take a look at our biases. We all have biases. We know that. We all have biases. I just did a talk yesterday on bias. I mean, we can't talk about it enough because they crop up, and then when we recognize and become conscious of those biases, then we can speak differently to people. We can treat people differently. We can be okay saying, "You know what? That what I said, that wasn't very nice. I'm sorry. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm working on being better." It's just being vulnerable, having the courage to be vulnerable. So these are the kind of things those are the inner discovery things. When we do those kind of things, when we're willing to do those kind of things, then our people will be more responsive. And that's what brings about the inclusivity, inviting other people who to a meeting that you might not have invited. People get it's easy to be with people who are like us, the affinity bias, right? It's easy to be with people who are like us. It's more challenging to be with people who are not like us, but that's when we grow, right? If we step outside of our comfort zone, then guess what? We're gonna grow, and I hope that people always wanna grow. I learned many years ago, I used to have a different franchise called Sandler, and one of the things that David Sandler said is, "If you're not learning, if you're not growing, you're dying." And we need to learn and grow. So the inner discovery, recognizing what we can change about ourselves, transferring that to other people will help them feel included. And you know what, too, Bridget? Prove that, guess what? They have the ability to learn and grow too. And so that makes them okay saying, okay, you know what? If you said that, then I have permission to be able to say that too. Does that make sense? That answer the
That
question? Does
totally
that
that totally makes sense, but let's break it down into pieces now because this was an overall explanation of this whole thing, of the whole process of diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. Because I think belonging is also a term that is all encompassing because everyone
yeah,
has a feeling and a need or a desire to
right.
belong to a group. And when we are inclusive, we can make that happen. I would like to come back to the beginning because I think that is really important because we start with our inner discovery, with the reflection process of ourselves. And isn't it like that? Because there is this personal growth, and then we also have the professional growth. Somehow
Right.
they are intertwined and aligned and
Yeah.
affect each other. Because when I start growing in my personality, in my private life or my personal life, that's also affecting the way of how I lead in my professional career and I lead teams. Are there certain strategies, like strategies that you are willing to name that we can try out, or that you would suggest? Maybe there is something that is an easy three-step process that we can use in order to personally grow that also affects the professional growth.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from when we a couple things. One is when we hire people. Another is when we train and develop people. Another is when we promote people, right? So, as a leader, when we take a look at who we're hiring, then that's where the diversity comes in. And sometimes I work with companies and their tendency is to, when they have an opening, their tendency is to reach out to the same network of people who they always reach out to. And so my recommendation and plea is that they open themselves up to expand their recruiting efforts to other organizations that they may not have been in touch with, right? And it's easy to find it. And here's what I would say, and I'm keeping it real. Diversity, Bridget, is a term that people seem to not want to embrace so much right now. Right now, we're in June of 2023. Right now, diversity seems to be a term that people, companies, leaders are not as comfortable with. And here's the thing: mindset, understanding that diversity is about a lot. So, if you take a look around your organization and that you don't have enough women, you don't have whatever the underrepresented group is, right? If you don't have enough of that, then open your mind, change your action to contact other organizations that you can pull people from those underrepresented groups and bring them in for interviews, helping them understand what your company's about, figuring out if they're going to be a great addition to your company or not, and start with that, the hiring. And then it's the training and development. The training and development to make sure that you are creating opportunities. One piece of research that comes through often is that people don't get enough feedback about how they can move up in the organization, what kind of training and development they can take on their own, and what kind of training the company can offer. So take a look around at the way that you're developing your people, and what kind of conversations are you having with your people about what they themselves need to do to be able to get a promotion. Too many times, what's happening is companies do bring in people from underrepresented groups and then they leave, right? So the turnover is high, and it's because typically they're not feeling like they belong. So you're 100% right. The bringing people in who are different, who are going to make your culture inclusive because you're represented. Your branding is that you are a company that welcomes and promotes and embraces people from a variety of backgrounds and cultures. If that's your culture, let's hope that it is. If that's not, that's probably the goal. And these are some things, some actions that need to happen in order to make it that way. So it starts with the hiring, continues with the training and development, and then it goes to the promotions, right? Who gets to be promoted? Here's a true statement. Still today, the bulk of the C suite are white males, sprinkled sometime with a few women, sprinkled sometime with women of color, not a lot. So here's the thing, it's real, it's real. And in order to have an inclusive culture, people need to feel like they belong. You're right, 100%. They need to feel like they belong.
Yeah, they need to belong, but there also needs to be this higher purpose for the company. What are we striving for as a
Yep.
unified system? Isn't that also something that we have to
Yeah.
foster and we have to live and breathe every single day?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing too, you know what, too, and it starts at the top. Sometimes when I sometimes employees, they really don't know what the vision is of the company. They know the company wants to make money, right? But they don't really know what the vision is. Like right now, what they think is the company wants to make a profit and that's it. But that can't be the culture. That can't be the vision. So one thing that needs to happen is that is that leaders need to be more willing to share the vision, right? To do the vision casting to the people so that they can understand whatever their role is, then it contributes to the big picture. So that's one thing that leaders need to do. And here's the truth too, Bridget. There are new generations that are coming in, right? And millennials are here in the corporate America, and the Gen Zs are coming, and the
Mhm.
baby boomers going out, right?
They
So the
are
baby boomers are there
the
10 years. And you know what the Gen Zers want? To your point, they wanna know, how's this benefiting our country, our world? What's our purpose? Because they especially the Gen Zers and the millennials, they really want to be able to express it. And then we have the Gen Xers who are still around, right? So the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, some are still there, the Gen Xers are there. They also want, and that's interesting, they feel like they're the forgotten generation. It's
yeah.
interesting, right? Forgotten generation, but so we got to work on that too. We have to work on making everybody feel like we value your values, and we're not judging if you think this is right and we never thought that before. What we have to do is stop judging, stop having biases about that, and start listening more to what's important to you and why is that important? Why is this important to you? And then working to understand it. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with that. What it does mean is that we have to communicate that we understand why that's important to you and not judge, not say poo, not say, "Oh, we do that. Oh, that's a stupid idea. You need to get over that because here's what we're doing, and if you can't get on board, then you're out." That's what I mean by the leadership styles changing. Those days are over, speaking to people that way, because they will choose to leave.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, it's really important to understand each individual, and each individual is already coming with a set of defined values, whether they know it or not, but they're living it. And I think the trick
Yeah,
is all the different generations that are coming together, working for an organization, creating such an organizational culture. They need to agree on a set of values to live and breathe every day to make the company thrive. And I think that's the key
ex
about the values that
yeah,
we want to live every day, why we are coming and why we are appreciate each single person. And then also the
right,
organization appreciated by the buyers because they want to
right.
just from a company that
Right.
has strong values that stand for some.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so too many times the companies, it's so interesting. The companies have their values and their mission written on the walls a lot of times.
Yeah, but
And so,
there.
right. Well, I pay attention to those. And the other interesting thing about that too is that now, since there's so much remote work and hybrid, people aren't even in the office to see the walls. So the interesting thing about that is how is the company living? How are they living those values? Whether, you can see them on the wall or not. Here's our values. Here's how we live it. We include people in our meetings. We ask for your insight. We ask for your input. We do the surveys, but we don't just ask you to do the engagement surveys just because we want to and just because it's a good idea and we should. We're taking what you're saying and we're changing our policies, and we're willing to take a look at changing some procedures and making things more relevant for you. And by the way, here's our value, here are your values. Here's how we're incorporating your values into our overall values. So that,
Mhm.
yeah, the companies are busy, and we know that we have had several challenging years back to back. In spite of that, though, what's important is that the companies recognize that their company is made up of people.
That's
And when the right? And when the people are feeling like they're not cared for, then they're not doing their best work. They're just not. They're doing
they're
them.
yeah, they're quitting. Yeah, internally, but then they're also leaving to another company that values them as a person, coming every
Mhm,
day, giving their best. And I would like to come back to internal values and they're on the wall. And since we are now working in hybrid forms and having Zoom meetings, the question is also how can leaders action on these values? So integrate that values in each single meeting that they have every week. I think that is the trick now, taking them from
mhm,
the call into the Zoom meetings so that they're still
right,
felt seen and appreciated for the work they're doing every day in their
mhm.
particular way.
Exactly. And for companies, if you're not taking care of your customers, customer is king. If you're not taking care of your customers, then you're gonna be struggling more. So just for companies to be aware that our value is the customer and it's on the wall here somewhere, right? But when we're having our meetings, let's talk about some successes that we've had with our customers, some great conversations we've had with our customers, as well as what problems have we experienced, why do we think those problems exist? Let's brainstorm on that. Maybe you put somebody in a project to go really dig into that and come back and report to us on we dove into it and we figured out here's the challenge and here's the recommendations and make it collaboration has been down in companies lately the last few years too. So this is a way to be able to get people collaborating. Let's figure out how can we better serve our customers and to use it as an example of what I shared at the beginning, which was my boss told me we don't really need for you to come up with those ideas. That obviously didn't work. Take what people have and then brainstorm on it and together come up with some solutions. And guess what? That's what makes people feel like they are included, that they make a difference with the purpose of the company, and that they really do belong, that their ideas matter. Whether or not you can execute something, an idea that they had, when you listen to them, then, the whole scheme of psychological safety, people feel that people need to feel like they're included. People need to feel like they can learn. People need to feel like, you know what? I have something to contribute to this organization, and they can feel safe to contribute, and they can feel safe to challenge the idea, right? They can feel safe to say, I hear this point number 1 and point number 2. I'm not so sure about point number 3. Let's elaborate on that. Let's expand on that. You know what, too, Bridget? All that takes time, right?
Yes,
It
it does.
means that you have that it all takes time, and I know people are busy. So what my request is to understand what the priorities are, making your people feel as though they matter by doing these things that we're talking about, and really showing that we can grow as a company when we get different perspectives, different ideas, and we're willing to take a risk. Let's try it. Maybe it's not a big project. Maybe we roll it out in a little small project and let's see how that goes.
It's also the willingness to take a risk, to step out of the comfort zone as an organization, the willingness to try. And as you say, if it's the outcome is not as intended to, there is something that you can work on. Yeah.
Yes.
And really what we have talked about now that works for the culture internally within an organization also reflects to the outside world. So with the mindset and the way of how we value each other, that
Yes.
also specific lasting experiences for our customers, especially when it's in a service-based company. Think about
Yeah.
the hotel industry or think about the airline industry or in the retail, how we serve the people, because everything that we live internally is also expressed to the outside world. This all
Right. Yeah.
is connected and it has
Yeah.
all be in sync in order to be a thriving organization, yeah, to get there
Right. Right.
for our customers
Exactly.
or for everyone
Yeah.
directly or
Yeah. And it needs to be
indirectly connected. Like it can also be the suppliers and everyone that has something to do with the organization, right?
all aspects of the community, right? The community at large, right? The vendors, the customers, the people who live in the community, and it needs to be representative. So going back to that, it needs to be representative, which is why diversity matters. It does start with
Exactly.
it does start with and exactly.
Now I would love to switch gears a little bit and switch from
Okay.
big organizations to the life of an entrepreneur. But also an entrepreneur. So, what role does personal branding play in building a successful coaching and training business that you have? And how have you leveraged your personal brand to attract the clients of these big organizations and all the opportunities that are out there for you?
Yeah, yeah. The life of an entrepreneur is a journey, and it is and it's so rewarding, right? It's very rewarding, and for me, it starts with being willing and able to always grow. Part of my affirmation is that I am committed to personal development. So, for me and I love that we're doing this podcast. I love listening to a variety of podcasts because there's nuggets everywhere, right? I love reading lots of different books. I've some behind me on the bookshelf, right? By lots of different authors. So for me, it's a commitment first to continue to learn and grow. And I would be out of integrity if I didn't do that because what I do is help people learn and grow, right? So how can I ask people to invest in themselves if I'm not willing to invest in myself? So for me, it starts with being a woman and a person of integrity and learning and growing. And for my branding, the Champ Group, what do I stand for, right? I stand for being willing to invest in yourself. I stand for making sure that I help people become experience their inner champ. And so I everything that I do, hopefully, what represents me, and I'm gonna tie this into what my word is for the year. Every year, I have a mastermind group, and every year I ask them to come up with a word that will motivate them and inspire them through the year and represent them when they're going through great times and when they're struggling. And so my word this year is shine. And I hope that represents my branding, right? That what I and how I came up with that word is this year, and I've had several words, right? This year, I thought I really want for the light within me to shine outwardly, to say positive things to people, to let them know I'm thinking about them, to text them and say, "Hey, I'm just thinking about you. How are you?" I want to bring my light outwardly. And through the coaching and the training that I do, I want them to shine. So I really feel like that's part of the branding. And every year you're going through something different. I thought, well, this is year 5 for me coming up. And so where I want to be is that I'm really being successful and creating significance for people so that they can shine. So that's what I've been really working on is posts that I do, inspirational posts, messaging. I am such a like I said, my passion is leaders who are perspective because they are good listeners, they're empathetic, they are willing to step out of their comfort zone, embracing the important elements of DEI and B so that people can feel like they are a part of it. So the posts that I do on social media, hopefully what they do is they represent all that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I tell you, you are shining in this show today. You are absolutely shining. And I
Oh,
love what you are saying. I love what you are saying because you said you want your clients and the people experience their inner champ. I like that because usually you ask them, what is your superpower? And they're aware of what it is, but it's about experiencing it. So this is another level. This is another dimension because how do you feel experiencing something like this? I'm getting goosebumps. And I think about that. Yeah. My word for the year is growth. The growth of my business and personal development. So that's the word for the year 2023. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, that's your word for the year, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, doesn't that make a difference? I love having a word for the year because it really makes you pay attention to what action am I taking to make sure that I'm growing. For me,
Mhm.
and I have a vision board, the word shines on my vision board, and I'll be, okay, Michelle, so today you need to be focused on. So having a word, it really helps you stay grounded, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a reminder every end of the month, and it says
Okay.
growth. So I need
Oh,
to reflect on my month and what I want to do going forward for the next month. And I remember the newsletter that you sent out this week, it was about vision board. It was so funny because when I got the email, I was working on the second half of the year vision board for myself. So this is no coincidence anymore. Somehow there is a connection.
well, wow, that's awesome, Bridget. I love that. Thank you for reading the newsletter.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
it's halfway through the year, and we gotta pay attention. What do we need to take off that vision board? What do we need to keep exactly? What goals do we need to change? How are we doing on that? And it was funny, the way I put in there, it's halfway through the year, so are you saying, "Yikes," or are you saying, "Yay?" And regardless of what you're saying, you still have half a year to get it done, and so I love that, Bridget, and that's why you and I are connected because we're on the same page, like, we can't just set the goals and put the vision board and, "Okay, I did that," and check it off the list. It has to be a dynamic tool for us to be able to make sure that we're gonna be where we wanna be by the time 23 is over and be ready for 2024 when we have new doors to walk through.
Exactly. New doors are opening up. And some doors have already opened up. When you look at your vision board, maybe you're not checking
Yes,
vision board like every other day if you're not just having it somewhere inside or I have it on my it's my wallpaper. And then you realize, oh my God, that already has worked. It's already
yeah.
here. I've already received it. I've already done it. So it's
Isn't that
off the list.
Oh, I know it. And then we gotta reflect, "Okay, how'd that feel? How's that feel? What did we do to make that happen?" We
That's
can
it.
make sure that we can set the new goal and keep doing it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the fun about being an entrepreneur, right? Is that we can set our goals, we have to take the responsibility. It's our responsibility to make sure that it happens.
Yes. I love to take this responsibility. It's us. We cannot blame anyone else, but it's okay. And I do everything in my power to make things happen. So,
Exactly.
are there any practical tips for our listeners who are trying to enhance their personal brand while also embracing this diversity and inclusion? Do you have any tips that you can pass on? Maybe 3 tips that we have not mentioned yet.
Well, let's see here. Well, first of all, know who you are. We did talk, so know who you are, and then again, know what you stand for, right? And also for the branding, you do have to know who your audience is, right? And sometimes that changes. And my audience has changed, right? But I do believe that we have to, because we have to be giving our message to the right people, right? To the right group. So we have to know who we are. We have to know what we stand for. We have to know our target audience and be willing to acknowledge when they change. Like I mentioned, I added the DEIB to my leadership. So that changed some messaging and it changed what I say and it changed some of my audience. And it actually added to it. It didn't take away from anything, it added to it. So know our audience, know who we are, know what we stand for. And the other thing that I would say in terms of branding that we have to be willing to do is we have to know our strengths and we have to know our weaknesses. And I really like to encourage people, know what your weaknesses are and know when you can delegate those out. If they're weaknesses, then they're probably something you don't really like to do. And so why spend your time and energy, which is you have limited resources, right, in time. So why spend your time on something that's not a strength for you? Why don't we figure out how to delegate that out? And then let's keep working on our strengths that are going to help us achieve our purpose, whether it's to grow our audience, whether it's to grow the profit, build the revenue, grow our audience, whatever our purpose is, whatever our big mission is, then we want to spend our time and energy and resources on that rather than working on the weaknesses.
Perfect.
So, and you know what else I too believe it's to make sure we're around the right people, right? In terms of branding, make sure that we're around the right people who are going to lift us up, not people who will push us down and say, "Oh, you know what? That's a stupid idea. I don't even know why you're trying that." So make sure that we're around people who are the right people, and those are the circles that we want to influence us. That's a big part of branding is being in the right groups.
Some have troubles, a lot of people, to allow letting those people go that are not good for us.
Yeah,
Yeah. Everything
that's right,
has
Brit.
its time. So it's okay that we are doing that.
You know what? It's true. We have to realize that it's about pruning the vine, I call it, pruning the vine. And there's a great book by Bruce Wilkinson, and I think that the name of it is The Vine. I can't remember, but it's about pruning. My gardener pruned big time my rose bushes the other day, but he had to do that so that I could get some more roses later, right? So the roses could bloom again, right? And so like you said, Bridget, it's okay because when we remove people who are not good for us, then we replace the people who are good for us with
we
the right people who are
we have room for that. We are opening up
right.
to receive because we have room, we have capacity. All right.
That's right.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your practical tips. And we are almost at the end of our show today, Michelle. And I would like to do some rapid fire terms with you. I throw out
Okay.
a term and you just give me another word or a sentence very quickly. Are you ready?
Okay.
What do you associate with belonging? Because you have it in your
Yep. Loved and valued.
loved and valued. Discovery,
Discovery. Growth. Growth.
mindset.
That's where everything begins. And that's the mindset is where everything begins.
Good. Beautiful.
Our
Women empowerment.
women empowerment. Women empowerment, success.
Success.
Success. Yeah, exactly.
And
Success,
last but not least, brands.
image, and respect.
Image and respect. Beautiful.
That was fun.
Good. Where do listeners find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you get in touch with me, I would say probably the easiest place is my website, which is www.thechampgroup.com, right? It's probably the best for them to get in touch with me. And they can link in with me too. I love LinkedIn, and you can find me at linkedin.com/in/Michelle Beauchamp.
Okay.
Definitely please link in with me. Go to the website. And my email is michelle@thechampgroup.com. So I would say thanks for asking that. And I would love to engage in more conversations. Everything starts with a conversation, I like to say, because it's true. Let's find out what you're about, what I'm about, and build connections. I'm all about connections. And you and I'm so happy that you and I are connected, Bridget. So thanks for
Thank
asking
you.
that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for being my guest today on BrandsTalk.
Can I share one more thing real quick? A
Yes,
couple
go ahead.
statements. Because you know what? I love different quotes from people just to accent what we've been talking about. And I have a couple of them. They'll be quick. One is by Mahatma Gandhi, where he said, our ability to reach unity and diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization. I love that. That's what we're talking about. And Martin Luther King Jr. said the ultimate measure of a man or woman or person is not where he or she stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy. So I thought that those really sum up what we've been talking about today. So thanks for letting me share those.
That's beautiful. And we are closing with that today. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being my guest. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. I loved it. Thank you.